I think this topic of nature is worth talking about for a minute. I just saw an interview with author Robert Greene discussing his new book, which I haven't read, but it sounds interesting. And as he was talking about technology kind of versus nature, which is something I've been talking about and thinking about for many years, um, it occurs to me that I think nature is one of the things that is, I think most of it, well, not all of us, but many of us, probably the majority of the people in the world, will agree that it's an important part of who we are. The connection with it is important. We rely on it for our very, our lives. And what I mean is in contrast to the technologists who are, maybe willing to, who don't care about nature, basically, or maybe willing to level a forest or something so they can put up a giant power plant for AI or something like that. Um, I think that the small percentage of those people that are of that mindset, that are willing to ignore the need for nature, are probably just kind of maybe deluded and also really just motivated by money and power. So that's maybe a separate category. But the reason, the thing that occurred to me about nature, and the reason I'm focusing on nature, is just simply to say one analogy that was just brought up in this um, interview, that I showed this clip of this interview I just saw with Robert Greene, was that, you know the interviewer was saying, yeah, but isn't all the coming technology really just the same thing as, as computers have become more prominent in the past several years, and now we no longer have this need for, and it's no longer taught for, cursive handwriting. Saying basically, aren't you just kind of being a Luddite? He was just playing devil's advocate, but aren't you just kind of being a Luddite by saying all this, when in reality, we don't really need cursive anymore. And, maybe maybe these things, this technology, are replacing some of our previous technologies, like, the fountain pen or something, with better technologies. And I think sometimes that is true. I think when we're talking about these big, this is a side note here, but sometimes when we're talking about these big ideas, these big concepts, these big things that affect us, I think we have to realize that it's not a black and white issue. Technology, is super useful, can be super useful. I'm communicating with it right now. And even, go back 150 years, 200 years, there was all kinds of technology we were utilizing then. It's still technology. It's just now we're in a higher technology with computing. So, but all that said, I think that what we need to work towards is a balance between integrating technology, but also I think it's unlikely. I mean, it's possible that, let's just say we just wiped out the entire, I hope this doesn't happen, of course, wiped out the entire planet of, most of the trees and most of the animals and most of the whatever, and then, is it possible the technology could save us? Yeah, I suppose. I can think of a few scenarios. I can think of a biosphere scenario. I can think of technology being able to, let's just say, replace trees with artificial. Uh, Being able to figure out, let's just say we level the forest and we realize we can't breathe. We're not going to be able to breathe in 5 years. Technology could maybe figure out a way to regrow all those trees in an extremely short period of time, could figure out ways to generate food sources artificially, as we're kind of already trying to do genetically with meat and things like that. So, I mean, yes, I think, that's not I don't really like that potential scenario, but I think it's possible. At the same time, is it likely? That's a hard one to predict. I'm not necessarily a fatalist in the sense that I think that the only path is that technology is going to take over and try to eliminate humans or something. Is that a possibility? Is that a possibility? It's a possibility. I'm not convinced that it's ever going to become sentient or self-aware enough to do that. But there are people that argue that. We're not that close to that, as far as I know. Yeah, as far as I can tell. And I am following this subject very closely. I have been for a few years now. But but just back to the nature thing, I think that um, most people, if they just stop and think about it for a minute, will even the people that are living in the cities, and I think many people will realize that with just a little bit of investigation and a little bit of research, um, realize that we need the things that exist in nature to support our humanity, our physiological beings, to support life on this planet. And this is one of the underpinnings of the environmental movements. Of course, is that if we destroy all this stuff, we're basically killing ourselves. But I guess the thing that stood out to me today about this conversation was just the fact that I feel like out of all the arguments, if someone's arguing about you're being a Luddite or technology is really great and I like technology is fine, but the technology is better than whatever. Those arguments aside, I think that most people can come together on this idea that we need nature and that, it's an integral part of being an animal and being human. And even though we are evolving as humans, you know, it, it's still we are nature. Our very existence is nature. We're all biological creatures, so to speak. So I just think it's something as we move forward, particularly with AI technology and the one of the big concerns with AI technology, if you haven't been following it, is the environmental strain it's going to put on the earth because it requires so much power. And to do the things that the people running these companies really want to do, to push the technology forward, the supercomputing, et cetera, it's going to require huge, unbelievably large and powerful power plants, and they're not 100% sure how they're going to do this. They don't really know yet if how they're going to do this, but currently this is 2025 in September. The government is supporting these initiatives, and they are supporting all the various ideas and the things that need to happen to make those things happen. So, but again, it's still in flux in terms of where they're going to build them and how they're going to build them and what resources are going to need to generate that much power. As an example, nuclear is something that's being discussed because of the extreme degree of power that's going to be needed. So, I think it's a hopeful idea that when we talk about needing nature, just I'm a great appreciator and someone that loves to be outside and just enjoy nature and loves, trees and plants and animals and things like that. But I think it's something that most people can come together on, this idea that it's something that's integral, at least at this point. Would it be 200 years from now, 100 years from now? I don't know, but I think probably so. It's integral to who we are and what we are. One more thing I'll leave you with. Part of this conversation, this author was saying is something that I've been thinking about for the past few years, is that he predicts that young people rebel against technology in kind of in the same way that there was a great movement in the 60s, that they're going to really rebel against technology at some point, that they're already doing it, really, that's already happening, because they are just kind of disgusted with what's going on. And I can tell you, as someone that has had the opportunity to talk with a lot of young people, I see signs of this as well. People in the late teens and early 20s who are realizing that being addicted to technology, as an example, which is a huge problem, can be detrimental to their lives, and are just getting to the point where they want to go back to real experiences and tangible things and things they can put their hands on and people that they can interact with. And I'm really seeing it. I just, it's anecdotal, just coming from me, one person. And I think he's saying the same kind of message, but something to think about and look for and talk about with the young people in your life, because it is a ray of hope against the idea that, oftentimes the information coming to us from social media or from the news or from the technologists who are controlling a lot of the media, you know what I mean? They're trying to raise their stock prices by talking about how great their product is. Oftentimes the message we're getting is just that, forward motion, it's over, forget that, forget that old technology. So that's just something to be aware of and think about. I hope this message finds you well. This was an impromptu conversation here that I wanted to talk about and upload as a podcast. I hope you enjoy it. And if you'd like to get in touch, remember you can reach out to me at this email, which is somethoughts@icloud.com. Talk to you soon.